At 6:12 a.m. on August the 2nd, 2025, on the outskirts of Sumy, the villages look abandoned. A low, throbbing hum cuts through the stillness. The Mi-24 helicopter slices through the valley, flying just a few feet above the ground. Its rigid fuselage shudders with every vibration, resisting the forces of the terrain. "Don't rush it," the gunner warns over the intercom. The Mi-24 responds smoothly to the pilot's commands. It crawls just above the treetops, nearly brushing the shadows below. From a distance, it might look slow and clumsy, exposed to any eye in the valley. But inside, every system is alert, every sensor awakes. The missile detector scans relentlessly, ready for the first sign of danger. It only takes a single rocket fired in the air to set off the alarms. From the ground, the Mi-24 looks like an easy target. Slow, heavy, exposed. But that's exactly the point. It's not here to strike, it's here to bait. Every ruined building could be hiding a Russian soldier, shoulder-braced with a launcher, waiting for the perfect moment to fire and turn the helicopter into a blazing inferno. The Mi-24 flashes on its side for just 3 seconds. It ducks behind the poplars, then lets the tail slip back into view. Every stumble looks clumsy, but it's all calculated. There are always eyes watching. On the other side of the line, it's the Russians who are scanning. To them, what the Mi-24 just revealed isn't a mirage, it's an opportunity. The drone picks up moving heating signatures in a corridor where nothing should be. It's not livestock, it's not vehicles. It's a helicopter, daring to fly far too low. The hangar vibrates with the smell of kerosene. The K-52 alligator stirs to life like a predator awakened. Its rotors spin in opposite directions, kicking up dust and a thundering hum that hits the chest. At first, the screen is nothing but static, like an old TV with no signal. Slowly, shapes begin to emerge in black and white. "I've got a low-altitude thermal signature," the gunner reports. "Confirm. I need a clean line of fire." The Veer missiles are locked and ready. In the background, the BBAC defense system hums, primed to intercept any incoming enemy projectile. The pilot tilts the control stick. The Ka-52 rises smoothly, as if carefully gauging the terrain below. No rush. The target looks weak, clumsy, almost too easy. The gunner fine-tunes the sight. A silhouette appears, slips back into the shadows, and then peeks out again. The alligator moves forward without hesitation. Above, the Russian predator closes in from the ground, while Ukrainian teams spread out among brush and the ruins of collapsed houses. Every soldier is in position, ready for the ambush. Just 330 feet from the valley, an operator preps a portable Pierrun system. The tube measures about 5.25 feet and weighs roughly 35 pounds. Beside him, the observer fine-tunes the laser rangefinder and whispers the distance, roughly 11,155 feet, to the potential target. On the opposite flank, about 2,950 feet away, another Ukrainian team takes position on the roof of a half-collapsed house. At the back of the hidden trap, behind a destroyed barn, a Gepard waits. Its twin 35mm cannons are loaded with 320 rounds ready for action. A mixture of high-explosive rounds set to airburst each detonation, spraying about 152 lethal fragments. The radar stays offline. It will power up for only 3 seconds to calculate range at the exact moment that counts. On the commander's tablet, a digital rectangle appears roughly 2.5 miles by 1.9 miles. This is the kill box. If the Ka-52 drifts into that zone, missiles and the Gepard will strike from every vector. The trap is live, distances have been mapped, sight lines locked, weapons angled down the same corridor. Everyone on the net shares one unspoken fact. Russian helicopters rarely come alone. No one in that valley expected the Russians to send just a single helicopter. Above the terrain, two silhouettes start to size each other up, without ever making eye contact. The Ka-52 Alligator charges forward at about 143 miles per hour, hovering 400 feet above the ground. 3 kilometers away, the Mi-24 skims barely 130 feet above the treetops, hugging the ground with precision that seems almost impossible. The Ka-52's thermal camera locks onto the Mi-24 for the first time. Its silhouette flickers in and out of the gaps in the foliage. The Ukrainian pilot does it intentionally. Every few seconds, he rotates just 12 degrees, revealing the tail briefly before hiding it again. Half the fuselage appears, then disappears, timed perfectly to frustrate the Russian gunner who needs a clean sightline to guide the Big Hair missile. The Ka-52 descends smoothly, hovering just 26 feet above the ground, searching for the perfect angle. Its rangefinder reads roughly 1.78 miles. The gunner holds his breath, waiting for the reticle to stabilize. Meanwhile, the Mi-24 moves with an almost eerie calm. Each adjustment looks like a mistake, but it's actually a rehearsed maneuver, a carefully choreographed move meant to lure the enemy into exposure. The moment arrives. The Russian Ka-52 keeps its aim locked, horizon level, distance clear on the screen. Just under 3,000 meters, the Ukrainian Mi-24 emerges between the tree line and open ground. A clean shot presents itself. Everything points to a clean shot. A flash streaks through the air as the first quick-air missile leaves the rail. The missile accelerates to nearly 1,340 miles per hour, capable of obliterating the Ukrainian helicopter in under 6 seconds. Inside the Mi-24 cockpit, the pilot had been ready for this moment. The Mi-24 brakes sharply to the left at a 35-degree angle, the fuselage trembling like a wild animal shaking off a strike. At the same time, the V-26 system fires 12 flares in rapid succession, each separated by 0.35 seconds. The sky behind ignites with incandescent sparks, burning like tiny suns. About 1,300 feet ahead of the helicopter, an unmanned vehicle receives its command. 2 multispectral smoke canisters ignite simultaneously. A white curtain rises and spreads, warping the air and disrupting the clean path of the laser guiding the bigger missile. The flares don't fully deceive it, but they saturate the scene. The smoke creates irregular waves, distorting the view. What was once a clean line now flickers like a broken trace. The Mi-24 drops about 6 feet, hugging the ground. The pilot grits his teeth as the harness presses sharply into his chest. The sudden correction subjects him to twice his body weight. On the Russian sight, the reticle jitters violently. Just 5 seconds later, the bigger missile veers a few degrees. It tries to correct, but it's too late. It slams into the wet ground, just a few meters in front of the Mi-24. The explosion throws up a cloud of mud and water. The Mi-24 emerges from the smoke, completely intact. It survived not by luck, but by careful calculation. Every flare, every foot gained in shadow, every second of smoke was a precise part of the choreography. The Mi-24 regains its flight path and settles back just above the treetops. The Ka-52 seems frozen, as if trying to comprehend what just happened. The black, heavy Russian Ka-52 Alligator keeps advancing at about 144 miles per hour, hovering roughly 360 feet above the ground. Its coaxial rotors spin like two opposing blades, slicing the world into layers. From above, through the targeting systems, the Ukrainian Mi-24 remains the prey that should never have been exposed. What the Russian crew doesn't realize is that every movement has been calculated with precise, mathematical patience. With a subtle 15-degree turn, almost unnoticed, it has entered the exact zone the Ukrainians anticipated. At 3,000 meters, a Ukrainian operator braces the Piorun launcher against his shoulder. The thermal reticle picks up a bright spot, flickering with the heat of the Alligator's engine. The missile erupts with a sharp roar, a white flare streaking into a straight line. It rockets at 580 meters per second almost instantly. Half a second later, from the opposite flank, another flash erupts. The second Piorun launcher fires. Launched from the rooftop of a crumbling building, two separate paths converge. Two hunters approaching from opposite angles, closing in on the same target. Inside the Ka-52 cockpit, a sharp, piercing alarm interrupts the gunner's focus. The pilot grips the controls and banks sharply to the left. Descending 50 feet, he accelerates, trying to break the missile's lock. The first Piorun streaks so close that it casts a brief, bright reflection across the armor. It detonates just a few meters ahead, sending a cloud of shrapnel and dust crashing against the fuselage like a hail of stones. The helicopter survives, but the maneuver comes at a cost. The tail is now exposed directly in the path of the second missile. The second Piorun adjusts its angle mid-flight. In its infrared seeker, the heat from the Alligator's tail glows like a beacon. At 20,000 feet per second, the missile slams into the rear of the helicopter. The flash is fleeting, just a strike of light, followed by a wave of shrapnel tearing through the airframe. The cockpit shakes violently, instruments flickering in warning. The gunner grips the edges for support. The pilot grits his teeth, yanking the controls desperately, but the helicopter no longer responds like it once did. The twin 35mm cannons roar to life with metallic thunder. In just 2 seconds, they unleash a short, controlled burst. The rounds are programmed to detonate in midair at precise distances, scattering a cloud of tiny fragments invisible to the naked eye. That cloud spreads directly in front of the Ka-52. Shrapnel slams against the cockpit, the rotor blades, and the fuselage. It doesn't destroy, but it wounds. The Russian pilot tries to climb, but every pull on the controls triggers odd spins, vibrations rattling the cockpit. Alarms scream, red warning lights flare across the panel. The helicopter twists violently on its axis. One rotor blade loses its rhythm, and the other slams into it with a harsh, dry clang. The coaxial rotor, once a marvel of engineering, now becomes its curse. Synchronization fails, and the air can no longer support the Alligator. A wounded beast still flails its wings, as if trying to deny the inevitable. The fuselage twists violently. The rotor tears free, spinning away like a deadly boomerang. A cloud of dust and flames engulfs the area. For a moment, there's silence broken only by the distant echo of the Gepard's guns and the groan of twisted metal. The Ukrainian operators don't cheer, they don't shout. They know that in war, every victory is only a brief pause. The black column of the downed Ka-52 twists against the sky, as if clawing at it. On the ground, the Ukrainians watch the smoke rise, understanding that the mission's impact reaches far beyond the shattered metal. The enemy's confidence has been shaken, but the silence doesn't last long. In the distance, a low hum begins to swell. At first, it's just a whisper in the wind, then it grows into a recognizable roar, another coaxial rotor. No one saw it coming. A second Alligator emerges on the horizon, a delayed twin arriving to claim its revenge. The new helicopter moves cautiously, holding 1,000 feet of altitude, tracing wide circles, careful not to approach the exact spot of the smoke. Its sensors sweep the valley methodically. The pilots already understand what happened to their comrade. The smoke is a warning. On the ground, a Ukrainian operator launches an FPV drone. The first-person camera reveals a dirt corridor, fallen posts, and a 3.3 pounds explosive dangling beneath the drone's nose. The whine of its rotors is so sharp, it resembles an insect hidden among the poplars. The alligator notices it immediately. A small shape appears in the sight, too straight to be a bird. The gunner hesitates. The pilot tightens his jaw. It's not a missile, not a projectile, but something far more dangerous. An enemy that can track him every inch of the way. The FPV surges forward, climbing just enough to reveal its silhouette. It doesn't need to hit its presence is enough. Just showing it's there is enough, like a raised dagger that hasn't fallen yet. The message is clear. Enter, and you die. The Ka-52 breaks its holding pattern, 500 feet farther, and turns east. No missiles fired, no risk taken. It withdraws. The roar of its rotors fades, swallowed by the sky. The Ukrainian drone hovers silently, keeping watch over a space that no longer needs more fire. Victory came without an explosion. No cheers, no applause, just smoke marking a steel frame and a second predator choosing to retreat. That day, Ukraine didn't gain ground, it claimed the sky. In modern warfare, whoever controls the air decides who survives and who falls. Thanks for watching the video. See you again.